Well, good afternoon. This is the tribute that I was hoping to give at Hugh McConaughey's funeral service a couple of hours ago, but unfortunately, because of the atrocious weather conditions in Westray this weekend, it just decided it was better that I didn't make the trip down to Straighton. And I'm very grateful to retired Pastor Willie Wright, who's read this tribute out at the service today. I think in some ways it's maybe quite appropriate that I'm doing this from the platform in Westray at the Westray Baptist Church, one that Hugh was very familiar with. So the tribute I'm giving that Fiona asked me to give was more to do with the ministry side of Hugh's life, and Cheryl, Hugh and Fiona's eldest daughter, was giving one on the family side of things. So I just want to start off by saying just how honoured I am and treat it as a huge privilege to have been asked to do this. Hugh was a highly successful executive with IBM when at the age of 50, God called him into full-time ministry. Now, some would think this was a mad thing to do, but Hugh's obedience to God's call has impacted so many lives for the good. After 4 years at the Scottish Baptist College, during which time he was student pastor at Port Glasgow Baptist Church, he graduated and was ready for his first full charge. As they sought God's leading, the one thing that Fiona was praying specifically for, that they would get a church that was near water. And he certainly answered that prayer. Westray is an island surrounded by the sea. In fact, there's only one house on the island that cannot see water. So when Hugh got the invitation to come to Westray to visit, neither he nor Fiona were actually sure where Westray was. They knew it was somewhere near Wick. Well, it is in the right direction, but when you get to Wick, you've got 2 ferry journeys to make of about 1.5 hours each, so it's still a long way from Wick. It's also a long way if you've never been any further north than Inverness, which I understand neither Hugh nor Fiona had been. They were actually in Switzerland at the time on holiday with their oldest daughter Cheryl and family when the invitation came from Westray to come and visit. And as they left, Cheryl's parting words were, well, all the best for Windy Westray. She certainly got that one right. So before the Westray church had actually called he and Fiona had already felt God's affirming to them while they were on the islands that this was the place that God wanted them to be. So the call came, and so started a love affair between Hugh and Fiona and Westray. Hugh and Fiona loved Westray, and Westray certainly did love them. So Hugh was called to the church, and little did the church realise that they had called much more than a pastor. They called a builder. He built a new porch to the manse, a joiner, a painter. He painted the whole inside of the kirk, and just a general maintenance man. But his main focus was pastoring the church here. And within the first 2 months, all the families who attended the church had been visited, and within a short period of time, he had covered the whole island. He loved people, and he gained the respect of the whole community here through his caring, selfless nature. I think when they came to Westray, they did actually feel a bit like missionaries as they settled in here. It was so far away from anywhere that they actually knew. So in 2001, Hugh was then called again to leave Westray and to go to Gourock, back to his roots again, and once again near the sea. The church was packed for his ordination. I was privileged to be there. And the following Sunday, there were 18 people attending the church, of which 3 of them were visitors. And when you retired from Gourock in 2016, the Sunday morning service would have somewhere between 60 and 70 people. And there was lots of activity going on in the church for all age groups throughout the week. And they even had their own cafe. So Hugh retired, but retirement is not something that sits well with Hugh, and it wasn't long that before he became moderator of the Dunoon Baptist Church in their vacancy. And he ended up going over to Dunoon 3 days a week to pastor and to preach there for 3 years until they had got a permanent pastor. And during this time, he also was moderator for 2 other churches in the Central Belt. Then in 2014, Hugh and Fiona came back to Westray for a month to help with a vacancy. and just gave them an opportunity to meet up with old friends and to stay in what Fiona describes as the best manse in Scotland. That visit led to the recommencement of the love affair with Westray, and in 2015, Hugh agreed to pastor the church on a part-time basis for 3 years. Now, just like retirement, doing part-time doesn't sit well with Hugh either, but I think we managed him pretty well. We did our best anyway. At this time, Hugh was known to have said, he says, "I'm an old man," he said, as he started this ministry in a church which now was full of young families. But Hugh was somebody who was very much young at heart, and he loved working with young people. Hugh refused any payment for this ministry over 3 years. I just wonder if getting to live in the best manse in Scotland in a place that he loved, with people he loved, was enough for him. But this was an extremely generous gift given to not just to the church, but to the island as well. Hugh loved the men's nights with the Billy Graham films, seeing the young ones grow physically and spiritually, comforting the elderly and learning from their wisdom, baptismal services, joint services with other Kirks, and the odd game of golf with some of his friends. But one of the common themes that I've picked up from all the ministries that Hugh's ever done was that if you saw Hugh approaching you, beware, because he's probably got a job for you to do. These are some of the words that people have used to me to describe Hugh since his passing: approachable, friendly, thoughtful, hardworking, diligent, humble, encourager, generous, and as a minister, top-notch. And the man that used that last statement as a minister, top-notch, told me, he said, it was Hugh that led me to the Lord through a series of God-ordained events. Hugh was aware that God was working behind the scenes in my life. And although I was a United Free Church man, and Hugh was minister in the Baptist church, it was Hugh that I was being drawn to. Hugh was there for me that New Year's Day in 1997 when I felt I was being pushed to the edge. God was at work, and Hugh was aware of it. My oldest daughter, I asked her for a reflection. I know that she was very fond of Hugh, and this is what she said to me. I feel very blessed to have had Hugh as my pastor. He was always approachable and encouraging and loved to give you a job. He regularly would ask me to do Bible readings and prayers in our church services. Looking back, I realized that this gave me confidence and installed in me the importance of getting involved in serving in the church. I have lots of happy memories of meals with Hugh and Fiona, and there was always lots of chatting and fun. We spent several Christmas days with them, and both Hugh and Fiona have felt like family to me. Hugh baptised me before I left Westray to go to university, and when I was getting married years later, Hugh very kindly agreed to travel back to Orkney to marry me. I feel honoured that he was a part of 2 very significant days in my life, and he was an inspiration to me to faithfully serve and trust God. And these are just a couple of the many, many stories that people can tell you of Hugh and how he impacted their lives, just drawing alongside people, listening and encouraging and supporting. I asked Ian MacDonald, who's the minister of the Church of Scotland in Westray. He was a minister here both times that Hugh was pastor, and he's also still a minister. And I just asked him to give a few reflections on Hugh and his time working with him. And this is what Ian said. Hugh's ministry in Westray was impactful, and his death has left many folk deeply saddened here. Not just in the Baptist Kirk where he pastored with such dedication, but right throughout this community, where he made himself accessible to everyone and became such a respected figure, a place where he and Fiona developed many lasting and deep friendships. He was a great colleague to have, a man of astute counsel, but also someone who was wise enough and modest enough to seek the advice of others and to consult sensitively on thoughts and ideas. He was enthusiastic about churches crossing the traditional divides and sharing together in faith, not just in worship, but in practical and pastoral care, all of which fell under the banner of witness and service for Hugh. His loss is mourned here, as Fiona and all the family are being held in prayer, which itself was such a foundational component of Hugh's life and ministry. But amidst the tears, we also give very grateful thanks for his life, for his witness, support, and friendship. Hugh was a very special friend to me, to our family, and to the community in Westray. And I've spoken of many of the characteristics that people have shared about Hugh, but the one that has shone through most and defined him most was his deep love of God. This shaped everything that Hugh did and was. So we feel his loss today deeply, but we rejoice that his pain has gone and he is at peace with the Lord he loved. Thank you.